So they're really mirroring what we feel like, and they don't analyze, they attune to us. So
Okay.
it's really, great for people who have fears of people judging them or
Mm.
not being able to open up to truly be themselves because they have a fear of rejection. These horses are really attuning and mirroring and being that support system that a lot of people may lack or have a fear of opening up. So they are
Mm.
really able to be a being for us
Hmm.
that allows these clients to just open up and be themselves.
Welcome to This Way Up, the podcast dedicated to supporting parents and caregivers navigating the complex world of mental health. I'm Andrea, and each episode we dive deep into the conversations that matter, exploring the challenges, triumphs, and transformative journeys of those facing mental health struggles within their families. Whether you're here for expert advice, inspiring stories, or just a little boost to get you through the day, we've got you covered. So grab a cup of coffee, kick back, and join us as we find the bright spots in the mental health journey, because we're all climbing our way up together. Welcome back to This Way Up. This is Andrea, your host, and I have personally seen the power that animals can have on our mental well-being. I have wanted for the past 3 years to bring someone in to talk about the special healing powers of animals. So finally, we are going to do it today. And I'm being joined by Summer Bouquet, who is a therapist in training for a nonprofit organization in Orange County, California called Walk Into It, who supports and offers equine therapy to those who are challenged with their mental well-being. And she talks today about the different types of equine therapy, the power of horses, and how they can effectively provide relief, comfort, and even problem solving for those who are struggling with either a, a temporary challenge with their mental health or with something long term. Well, welcome, Summer. We are going to be talking today about one of my very, very, very favorite topics, animals, and specifically equine therapy and what those big, gentle souls can do to help people in times of need. So I want to start really about your background and how you even ended up here and what you're doing with equine therapy.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to just and just put it out there to the community. It's a really awesome thing. So yeah, I grew up around horses my entire life. I was on a horse at age 2 and just have been around them my entire life. I grew up on a ranch style house in Nellie Gill, if anyone's familiar with that, and had all sorts of animals, chickens, goats, pigs, and horses. I grew up barrel racing and did something called Gymkhana, which is just configurations going against the clock and just going as fast as you can. So I really just have all types of horse experience. So I graduated from UC Davis with a degree in psychology, and I am now in my master's, obtaining a LPCC license, which is a licensed professional clinical counselor, and working right now collecting my clinical hours at a nonprofit called Walk Into It in Orange County, California, where equine therapy is a huge part of what we do here. And I've been so blessed and grateful to have the opportunity to kind of jump right into it.
Tell us a little bit about what equine therapy is. Like, how is it different than just getting on a horse or having a horse be part of your daily life?
Yeah, so there are different types of equine therapy and can be looked at from all different perspectives. So the equine therapy that I'm doing is something so special and unique that a lot of people can benefit from in many different ways. So when I was younger, I was introduced to a type of equine therapy called hippotherapy. And that is more of a on the horse type of thing, like you had mentioned, something on horseback. And that involves the on the horse for people with developmental delays, body adjustments, all those sorts of things, or maybe intellectual disabilities, all that kind of stuff. So that's all on the horse stuff, which I was introduced to when I was younger, and I would volunteer at the Shea Center something in San Juan, and that was a great experience and kind of what I expected going into equine therapy in general. But I learned so much more of how there's different types of therapeutic programs.
Yeah, because I
So
would
yeah.
say I've only thought of equine therapy as being something that you would sit on the back of a horse for. I didn't realize there was other types out there.
Right. Yeah. And so that's kind of a surprise to a lot of people. A lot of our clients will come to us and be like, okay, so when are we getting on the horse? And I'm like, okay, well, actually, we aren't, getting on the horse right away. We do have some instances that we have clients go on horseback for very therapeutic reasons, because we do have clients with disabilities, developmental delays, where we do think that it could benefit them. But a lot of our clients come in for trauma, depression, anxiety, and the equine therapy that we do is so beneficial for those types of things. And it's a lot of stuff on the ground rather than on horseback. So a lot of people, just like you, kind of find it a surprise to find out that we're not getting on the horse.
So tell me, I've got a couple of questions here right now. So you mentioned depression and anxiety. Why is it that a horse would help those type of conditions? What is it about the horse?
Yeah, that's a great question and kind of a question to a lot of people because they're like, it's an animal or it's a big, people are afraid of these types of
Yeah.
animals. They're so big, have a mind of their own, and that's just kind of the general census of being in that environment with horses. But the equine therapy is a super trauma-informed, therapy, like I had mentioned. And so these horses are such gentle animals. And not every horse is meant for, equine therapy. The horses that we have chosen to do the job. And they, some days they need breaks, some days they don't want to do exactly what we're, had in mind. So that's really, we honor that.
Yeah.
Because it really is a choice. And if they aren't wanting to do specific things, that's okay. And it actually comes out to be a really good reason to talk to the client about, boundaries. And it comes into a lesson sometimes of how and why we're, making that happen for that horse. So the horse in general, they can help us kind of regulate our nervous system. They have kind of a unconscious pattern where, they can help us through movement, observation, connection, stuff like that. And a fun fact, kind of that I always like to tell people, is that they can actually match our heartbeats. So they can like kind of regulate with us. And I always tell my clients that when we enter the space, it's really important to be true, authentic, and because they can tell if we aren't, if we're trying to mask or trying to
Mm.
be someone we're not, because that can happen a lot in therapy when we're a little bit timid. So, this space of equine therapy really allows clients to just kind of open up and be themselves because they'll quickly find out that that space is reserved for true authenticity.
So if somebody comes in and they're anxious already, the horse then feels that, and do they kind of match that energy, and is that an opportunity then as a therapist to help them learn how to regulate, and then it brings their, I don't know, you're watching the horse come down from their anxiety, so you're mirroring almost, and is that how it's working?
Correct. Yeah. So they're really mirroring what we feel like, and they don't analyze, they attune to us. So
Okay.
it's really, great for people who have fears of people judging them or
Mm.
not being able to open up to truly be themselves because they have a fear of rejection. These horses are really attuning and mirroring and being that support system that a lot of people may lack or have a fear of opening up. So they are
Mm.
really able to be a sturdy a being for us
Mhm.
that allows these clients to just open up and be themselves. We do a lot of different activities and have different herd dynamics. We do in the stall work, in the arena work, cross ties. There's so many different things that we can do. But yeah, they really do mirror energy, and it's super incredible to see when a horse does a certain movement or does a certain, mannerism. It's interesting to see, how is that relating to your life, or has that come up in your life at all? And they really do sit there and be like, wow, this is a really big theme going on in my life that I maybe didn't even realize. So,
Can you
yeah.
share, so and I know that it's very complex, so let's just take it to a simple one. Someone, a 12-year-old comes in, let's just say, and this is one of their first times coming in. What is something that you do when you're introducing them to a horse? And then what are they doing? What are you observing? And maybe some examples of what you're able to draw out from those, as a therapist, what you're drawing out from those observations.
Yeah, so if I have a first time client, I kind of choose to take it a little bit slower with them, especially if they don't have a lot of horse experience and if they're, like you said, a 12-year-old or someone super young, that can be a little bit intimidating in itself.
Right.
They may be excited to be around animals, and a lot of kiddos kind of think of it not so much as a one-on-one like therapy, so that is just a benefit coming in to be a little bit more loose and less, feeling like it's a straight up talk therapy, which is a
Right.
great benefit to these animals, but they also are timid because they are big animals and don't know what to expect. And so I kind of just let them kind of feel it out. And I really, just with all my clients in general, kind of have them ground with the space and kind of get to know the sounds around them, the smells around them, kind of all those
Mm.
five senses, and kind of check in with themselves how they're feeling and maybe what the horses are feeling or what they're observing the horses are feeling. So I really do want that mutual connection and energy and kind of see it really depends on what the client is looking for and what they're
Right.
coming in for. But I generally do really like them to just check in with the horses or the space around them and kind of be able to articulate that. Because at 12 years old, that's a good age where they're able to start kind of checking in somatically a little bit and
Mhm.
just able to kind of see the environment around them.
So it's almost like a mindful, experience at first. It's allowing them to maybe take the focus off of their own struggles and their own issues and bringing it to the world that's around them and using that as a tool to help them maybe, I don't know, get out of their own head for a little bit.
Yeah, so I think mindfulness is a huge part of what we do and kind of really being in touch with the body. So that somatic work, like I had mentioned, we do a lot of work around that. And there's just so many things we can implement with mindfulness and that somatic work. It
Can you
really, again,
explain what somatic work is? Because some people may not know what that means.
yeah, so somatic is all kind of having to do with the body, really
Okay.
being in touch with how you feel, why you feel it, where you feel it. And so it's just, sometimes we aren't always in touch with our body and that we may be feeling one way, but we don't know why. And so that's somatic kind of being in touch with how you're feeling. Maybe there's a fast heartbeat, maybe there's tension in your shoulders. And we can use those forces. Kind of an example of that is really maybe you're feeling super tense and that anxiety is kind of riveting up in you, and you just need a place to kind of like somatically release things. We can really just have that release over the horse, really just using one of our horses to kind of just let go. There's just so many different things that we can do that really allow you to be more in touch with your body and what the horses can do to be that support system for you in that moment.
So I just am going to take a step back. There's two different types of equine therapy. There's the hypnotherapy.
Hippotherapy, yep.
Oh, hippotherapy. Yeah, hypnotherapy is for hypnosis, but hippotherapy. And that's more for people with disabilities that might be challenged either physically or learning disabilities and such. And then there's ground. Is that what this is called? Is ground equine
Yeah,
therapy?
equine animal assisted therapy.
Okay.
Just yeah, it's pretty much all on the ground, or that's most of, how we're kind of trying to find goal-oriented activities that line up with the client's goals and treatment plan. So
Yep.
all of it is still the general treatment planning, and everything is lined up with what the client wants to work on, even if that's the same thing that they work on in a general talk therapy. They can even use us as a secondary
That's what I
or
was just going to.
supplemental therapy. Some clients do use it as a supplemental therapy, and some clients use it as their sole therapy. They only work with equine once a week, and that's what they do. So it really
Got it.
depends on what you're looking for.
Oh, okay. Now is this equine therapy, is it pretty well known? And are there a lot of locations across the country that do this kind of therapy that is not just on that hippotherapy on the back of a horse?
Yeah, there's a lot of therapeutic writing and on the ground stuff that is kind of all over. So it definitely is more unique, but there definitely are other locations. The company I work for is solely based out of Orange County, though.
So, what are the benefits of equine therapy over other types of therapy that maybe it's not working with another type of therapy? What do you think the benefits are with equine therapy?
Yeah, that's a great question. It can help us with our nonverbal communication, our problem solving, our self-discovery, in ways that just that general talk therapy can't. It can kind of show us emotional control, building trust through these activities. So equine therapy is really known as experiential therapy as well because we're doing something so hands-on.
Hmm.
It can reduce stress, improving communication, like I had said, nonverbal and verbal. And the horses can show so many signs and symbolisms of things. Like, just for an example for you, like where a horse, this is a super generic, basic example, but if a horse is going over to take a drink of water while we're observing in the herd, um, a way that we can kind of relate that back is like maybe for a client who isn't, getting their needs met or maybe self-sabotaging, that, oh, I noticed the gray horse is going over to take a sip of water in this heat. I'm wondering if, you need to kind of attuned to your needs, or if is there anything that maybe you need to do at this moment or in the near future that will allow you to meet your needs. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
like a way that we could really symbolize or kind of relate it back to the client directly with something so simple. So as you can imagine, there's so many things that, that's the basic of the basics, but that we can kind of notice within the horses or that they notice themselves. Um, and they ask questions, oh, why is the horse doing that? And it's like, well, why do you think the horse is doing that? What could that mean in your life? What are some,
Mm-hmm.
and people can get frustrated, but we try to really kind of emphasize that at the beginning that this is kind of part of the therapy. We're not in horsemanship. We're not in training or lessons. We're in a therapeutic space that this is kind of the way that we do things. And most people understand, but it can still be frustrating if you really don't know. And it
Right.
really causes you to go into that deeper thinking of, why is this, the horses aren't talking to me. This is some nonverbal communication. What is their body language? And it really requires much more than, um, you know, a questioning someone. It's really deep analysis and thinking of how can that relate to your life.
Well, I think you brought up earlier that whole judgment space is, I think, sometimes we get into a place where we either feel like we're being judged or we're judging somebody ourselves.
Hmm.
And an animal is doing things really there's no place for judgment, so they're doing things to meet their needs, whereas in real world life, if we take a break from a social situation, it could be perceived that we're being aloof or stuck up or whatever, instead of realizing that our body just needs, or our mind just needs a break. And this is really a great, I've never really actually thought of animal therapy as being observing that and then drawing it back to our needs need to be met, and needs aren't selfish. Needs are needs. And
Absolutely.
how do we do that so that we can exist in the human world, and using animals to demonstrate that. So that's pretty incredible. Can you share some stories about how, like, things you've seen that have been really like fulfilling and like breakthroughs or something?
Yeah, absolutely. So many different small, big, and so many that clients see that are sometimes they don't see them as breakthroughs, and it's like, no, like this is something huge that you've accomplished that you haven't been able to accomplish that you said you've been trying for years in generic talk therapy, and they've come here and they, the smallest thing, they're like, well, I want to go from A to Z. And it's still an A to B to C to D, but it's just a little bit, they've noticed a bit faster. But one comes to mind is a client who has lost recently a son. And that is just a super hard space to come into, that grief. This client in particular kind of was recommended equine therapy as supplemental help. And so I just remember I think it was the second session, just tears rolling down her eyes, of how amazing these creatures really are. And I did something as simple as, hey, let's just go take this horse of your choosing, which she had chose her horse from the beginning, because it reminded her of her son, just that male energy, which is just great in itself that she was able to identify that. And so she was able to just take this horse for a walk. I said, kind of get in touch with the space if there's anything you need to release, um, or talk to this horse about. Take as long as you need. She took about 5 minutes, just taking the horse in a circle, taking her time, stopping at various points, and she came back just bawling her eyes out, saying how much this horse has really connected her to her son more than it ever has been since the passing of her son, and that she feels really just at peace with him. And there's so many things that remind just the goofiness, and this horse was sticking out his tongue, and so many different things, just on a little bit
Mhm.
of a happier note there.
Mhm.
But just so many things. And so that was probably one of the bigger breakthroughs that I've seen, just but recently, where it's been such a great and rewarding experience. And she
How
actually
do you
stepped outside
not
her comfort.
cry?
Right, right. I know. I know.
Like,
I'm just sitting there, and that's kind of that composure and
yeah.
holding it together a bit. But yeah, no, she's made some great breakthroughs, and she actually kind of pushed herself outside her comfort zone in various ways,
Mhm.
going to various groups. So definitely proud of her, and that was kind of the biggest breakthrough that comes to mind right off the bat.
Oh, it's a beautiful story. And I don't know how that this is why I'm not in therapy because they would be having to console me. Maybe that would be a good thing. Oh yeah, let me take care of you. Okay, okay, good. So what's next for you? Do you think you're going to stay after you get your master's degree and stay in equine therapy, or are you going to do something else? Do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I kind of have always wanted to do equine therapy ever since like volunteering when I was younger and just being in the horse world. I've always had a passion for helping others, and I've always wanted to kind of put in my personal passions and hobbies, which is horseback riding, horses, and then also sports.
Mhm.
So I think that that's always been an interest, and this opportunity kind of fell into my lap perfectly. And I've really been enjoying the experience so far. But eventually, my goal is to kind of do maybe a private practice or something with equine as well. Not quite sure what that looks like, but definitely want to kind of open up my own business slash facility.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it seems like it's a huge need and one that fills a unique space that
Hmm.
other therapies don't have. I tell you, there's so many different ways, and every just like finding the right therapist can be so difficult, right? You have to have that connection. I think the type of therapy also is important, and this touches people that maybe other types of therapy aren't touching. So this is great. Now you had mentioned that you have a horse at Walk Into It who is in need some medical attention. I'm imagining this is an expensive type of therapy because of the horses and their needs. But I know you wanted to talk a little bit about that for a minute.
Yeah, just to kind of put the word out there and just kind of what we do as well, all the background stuff, to take care of our horses. They are so amazing and beautiful creatures, but there's also a lot of expenses and work that my supervisors put into the program, and we can't do it without our volunteers and our donators. So I kind of just wanted to speak a little bit on that. We do have one horse in particular, Leo. We call him Leo the Healer. He is going to be going through a surgery for a breathing condition called roars. And this just kind of, if you're around him, you can kind of hear that heavy breathing, maybe in relation to if maybe someone has asthma, you can kind of hear that rough breathing after kind of working out or going for a walk, and it's just super loud. And he is great and does his job, but we really do want to make it easier on him because he does such beautiful work and give him a better quality of life. That being said, surgeries are expensive, so we've been doing our best to kind of advertise and put that out there to the community. We have raised a good amount through some fundraising events, but still looking to raise more.
So if somebody's listening to this, can they go to your website and also make donations?
Yes, so we do have a great website which has so much more information than just these donations. We do have a lot about our grief groups also that we're
Mm,
trying to advertise now. They are completely free, so go ahead and check those out on our website for various age ranges under 25. But yes, we have so much about the donations and even just donating to the nonprofit and generally all go back to just supporting the horses. So
hmm.
there's just always ways to donate in events and groups and things that we always have going on just through our locations.
Summer, thank you so much. You have got a lot to give, and I know that you're going to make a difference in so many people's lives. You can tell you have a passion for horses and you have a passion for helping people. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to This Way Up. I hope you're feeling a little lighter, a little brighter, and ready to take on whatever comes next. Remember, the journey of mental health is all about progress, not perfection. So keep climbing. And don't forget to celebrate the small wins. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little lift.